Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pierce. This is a Ukraine war breaking news update concerning some strikes in Belgorod. Actually, the second set of strikes, it appears, maybe ongoing strikes on a dam on a reservoir in Belgorod by the Ukrainians, and some interesting ramifications of this in terms of whether it's morally right that they do this, and also some strategic gain for them by doing this, some military gain for them. Okay, let's get to it. So we're going to look at what took place yesterday. This is the news that we heard. Russian sources claim HIMARS strikes allegedly hit the Belgorod reservoir dam yesterday evening, causing damage to technical facilities, spillway mechanisms, and the dam crest, with Rosgvardia casualties. Interesting choice of weapon, because I don't think, well, it depends what missiles they're sending from the HIMARS, but the general sort of 84-kilometer missiles I wouldn't have thought would be capable of doing too much damage to the structure of a dam, but could do some damage to stuff like this, and mechanisms, and the ability for it to operate and maybe make energy from it, so on and so forth. But I don't know. I'm no expert here, and it appears that actually maybe it has done more damage than you might have thought, but also there have been subsequent attacks as well. So as you can see, just, I don't think a dam is going to fall apart from some HIMARS missiles hitting it. But that's what we heard last night. And then there were these claims from today that I shared with you. Images shared by Russian media show a slight drop in the Belgorod reservoir water level after the dam began leaking post shelling. And it could be, as you can see there, it appears that the reservoir behind the dam has dropped in level somewhat. So an increased water flow out of the reservoir. And it could be that the mechanisms of maybe opening the dam's sort of sluice gates or whatnot have been hit, rather than the concrete structure of the dam itself. Here, War Translated says, after shelling, Belgorod Reservoir Dam began leaking water, and per Russian media, the governor announced voluntary evacuation from nearby villages due to flood risks. So this is what the local governor Gladkov said. As a result of the strike by Ukrainian armed forces, the dam of the Belgorod reservoir was damaged. We understand that the enemy may attempt another attack and destroy the dam. If this happens, there will be a risk of flooding the river floodplain from the Kharkiv region and several streets in our villages, home to approximately 1,000 residents. Therefore, we are starting to offer temporary accommodation and temporary accommodation points in Belgorod to residents who are at risk of flooding and who have no other options. And it lists some villages and places there. During the night, the water in the Belgorod reservoir began to recede. It is likely that the dam suffered serious damage after the shelling and began to leak water. The water level in the reservoir dropped, and overnight the water receded from the shore by more than a meter. According to Pepel sources in the area of the village of Grafovka, in the Shebekinsky district, and further down the Seversky Donetsk River, water flooded dugouts in which soldiers were located. The governor of the Belgorod region reported that in the Shebekinsky district, water flooded 10 plots of land, and 16 residents of villages located below the dam moved to temporary accommodations, the rest to relatives. Okay. So that's the official line after the initial strikes. I'm just going to give you some context of where this is, and then we'll look further into what's happened today. So we're talking about Ukraine here, the Belgorod region, just north of Vovchansk, really. So this is one of the areas where the Russians have got across the border and are fighting in Vovchansk. And you'll notice that there is a river that comes down here that the Russians are to the south of now. They have now attacked south of this river and got south of there. That river then comes down around the south of, it sort of cuts through the town, really, of Vovchansk city. And the Russians have been holed up north of the river over here. But the Ukrainians fought back over the river and had retaken an aggregates facility. Then that, I think, has been taken back by the Russians. Anyway, fighting's been ongoing there for a long time. But we have this river that comes through Vovchansk. I think is it not the Volcha? Anyway, it joins what is the Donetsk River here, that then comes up to a reservoir, which is just up here around the settlement. So you've got Shebekino here and Grafovka, which is it's not showing here, but it is, that's it, Grafovka there. So that is a settlement around the south of this reservoir, which, as you can see, has a dam here. Now, what I'm going to do is turn the map into the open street map, and you'll get a better sense. It's tinted red because this is the Russian controlled territory, and you can see the dam there. It comes down here, and it comes all the way south here, but also joins this river, or there's a tributary. Now, I presume this river is flowing into the Donetsk, in which case it's unlikely that this would rise given flooding coming downstream from here. But they are claiming that there are military consequences to this cutting off troops, which only makes sense to me if it is these troops south of the river here, which I think, as I said, is a Vovcha river. But anyway, that Donetsk River, if we go to this Wikipedia graphic, you can see it starts up here. So the Belgorod comes through Belgorod, and then we've got this reservoir here. Okay, and that's the dam that we're talking about. And that reservoir, the river comes down. This is Shebekino, a river joins it there. It comes down past the border, and you got Vovchansk. This is where the Russians are fighting south of this river, but it's not the river necessarily that we're talking about. I don't think. I think that is flowing into the Donetsk River, but I might be wrong there. And then, it comes further down past Kharkiv. And indeed, as you might well recognize, it goes past the Serebyansky Forest, the Seversky Donetsk River, bottom of the Serebyansky Forest and whatnot. And, not there. I don't know where I'm going with that. But anyway, that is, there's Izium. And here it is, comes down past the Serebyansky Forest. That's the Serebyansky Forest. And you got Kremina, Rubizhna, Severodonetsk here in this area. So anyway, that is what we're talking about up here. So let's go back to the news and look at some of these images. For here, this was from today, this afternoon. Belgorod Reservoir Dam was attacked again by HIMARS, is the claim. Just some images there with smoke in it. And then here we have some footage coming from the Belgorod Dam where it looks like water is much more freely flowing out of at least one of the sluice gates there. And that could be an issue for downstream and for lowering the reservoir unless something can be done about that. Claimed to be the Belgorod Dam here. This is Max 25 with another video. And this one is fairly significant because you can see, there's broken away concrete here. That it does look like there are some serious issues here with the operation of the dam, right on the dam, and the sluice gates there. So that's the issue, that you're not necessarily going to break, or maybe even possibly going to break the dam itself, like the whole concrete structure from hitting with HIMARS missiles are not strong enough, but you can damage the mechanisms that open the sluice gates. It looks like there is that a bit of metal there that's been sheared and whatnot, and then that stops the operation, the competent operation of the dam, and can cause issues like we are seeing. So extra context of the Belgorod Reservoir strike. Overnight damage to the dam has caused heavy outflow, dropping water levels by over a meter. Russian brigades 128th, 116th, 68th, and 136th downstream are now at risk of flooding, including personnel and equipment. The Seversky Donetsk is rising fast. So that's a bit, I can't quite understand exactly where they are, those troops that would be under threat. Here you can see supposedly the impact of striking the dam. So more claims here about who is affected. This is Noel reports again. A strike on the Belgorod Reservoir has isolated Russian forces in Vovchansk from their main units, causing serious logistical issues, according to Ukraine's 16th Army Corps. Water flooded into Seversky Donetsk after the dam was hit, cutting supply routes and flooding Russian positions. This is broadly, I think, drawn from this Ukrainska Pravda article. And here we can see Vovchansk. This is the river that comes down from Grafovka. So it could be that just in the general area of Russian control around here, that, I don't know, one side of the river is cut off from the other, but that's not too serious because they can just get across the border. To me, if you're going to have issues, if the Russians are going to have issues, it has to be around here. Otherwise, I don't see it's going to cause many militarily significant ramifications. But you know, well, we're going to get onto the morality very quickly in a second. So the 16th Army Corps, the Armed Forces of Ukraine, has reported that the dam near Russia's Belgorod has begun leaking water following a strike, leaving Russian units that cross the Seversky Donetsk River near the town of Vovchansk in Kharkiv Oblast effectively cut off from the main forces. And that's coming from the 16th Army Corps of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Gladkov has said that, quote, and he's the governor, there is damage to the dam and the Belgorod Reservoir as a result of the strike by the AFU. We understand that they may attempt to strike again, as we heard earlier. Okay, according to Gladkov, the Russian authorities have proposed that residents of certain streets get out of Dodge, essentially. I will summarize. It has then seemed to have got worse, and then it's been struck again today. So a quote from the 16th Army Corps from the Ukrainians say, as of today, the situation is no longer in the Russians' favor. After the strike on the Belgorod dam, it has started leaking. Russian media reports say that the reservoir's water levels dropped by 1 meter in just one day. As they say, trouble has begun, or more precisely, water has started flowing into the Seversky Donetsk. Some Russian dugouts are reportedly to have been flooded. But the main thing is that the enemy's logistics have become significantly more complicated. The leaves have fallen too. So the units that managed to cross the Seversky Donetsk now have effectively been cut off from their main forces. So we're expecting a POW exchange pool to be replenished. So they're, according to these guys, there is a definite military advantage to having done this. For reference, Belgorod Reservoir is located on the Seversky Donetsk River in Belgorod Oblast, Russia, within the Belgorod and Shebekina districts. The dam structure is situated near the village of Bezlyudovka and Shebekina district. Okay. Now, one must be careful because it's easy to misplace our moral evaluations here. So it's difficult to feel sympathy for the Belgorod Reservoir Dam, considering what the Russians did to the Novokakhovka Dam. Two wrongs do not make a right. So we must be careful here to think that this is a good thing and saying, oh, that's great that the Ukrainians have done this, given how terrible it was when the Novokakhovka Dam was blown up. That's one thing. Now, and I hope I'm not just trying to excuse the Ukrainians here, but I can't see that destroying. I can't see that they're going to be able to destroy this dam with HIMARS, but they can bring about a relatively similar effect, which still will have a moral dimension, which is that they are going to flood certain areas. Now, if it's just a kind of a slight flooding that conveys an advantage to the Ukrainians, such that the Russians can't cross certain rivers, and then they can have a military victory or some kind of military advantage in one of these areas, and I think that's more acceptable than completely blowing up a dam and flooding the entire area, and the kind of the ecological impact as much as the human impact being dire when you do things like this, and there are downstream consequences. So yeah, I think I would hope that there wouldn't be too much more damage done to this dam, so you properly do blow up a dam, because the dam busters, I guess, is this glorified event that happened in the Second World War with a bouncing bomb and all that kind of stuff, and we all think, yeah, brilliant. But actually, Geneva Convention was written thereafter to try and make sure that if war is taking place, that it's done within a confined set of rules. And this kind of stretches our ability to justify such activities. So I think the Ukrainians probably have to be pretty careful here. I do want to talk about Geneva Convention. I do want to talk about war crimes, because I've been thinking quite a bit. Bertold on one of my videos was talking about there being war crimes committed every time you see a Ukrainian drone drop a bomb on a Russian soldier that has already had a drone hit them. And quite often we see the Ukrainians take out someone who has been wounded, and then that is quite morally dubious, because actually the rules of war say that you can't shoot a wounded potentially unarmed soldier. I want to look into the morality of that, kind of legally speaking, if you like, and there are some grey areas around that, and it's not quite as simple as one might think, but it's also an interesting area for discussion. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about here. Um, the we just got to be careful, because we were all pretty condemning of the Russians for what they did at Novikakhovka Dam, and we shouldn't then go and have double standards, say, well, this is fine for the Ukrainians to do this. However, I think it's broadly okay at the moment, given the limited effect, and that possibly being exactly what the Ukrainians wanted, and also, like, I don't think it was the intention to completely destroy the dam, because I don't think you can completely destroy the dam with those HIMARS missiles. As far as I would understand it, you would need a serious amount of bunker busting missiles and repeated number of them, to, I think, cause the dam to completely fall apart in a way that Novikakov did. I mean, they had to put massive explosives inside the dam for Novikakhovka for that to happen. But anyway, let me know what you think about that. But lots being spoken, lots being mentioned here with regard to the dam, and lots of images of, the damage to the dam being. But there, if that's a HIMARS missile striking, that is just essentially a pinprick in a very heavy concrete structure. But even that seems, surely HIMARS do a little bit more damage than that. But I don't know. Then there was talk today, though, about drones being used. So in fact, what I haven't shown you is a video I did show you. It's this one from this morning. Is it this one? Where you can see hear small arms fire. So that's small arms fire, which is what you'd expect if you were seeing drones in the air. You would not be using small arms fire on a HIMARS strike. You just wouldn't. It's not going to happen. So I think this is drones. This is a case of drones hitting the dam. And that looked like an explosion that took place in the middle of the air. So actually, maybe hitting a drone that's coming at them. There. Actually, that wasn't either the video I was wanting to show you from earlier today, but it's fairly similar to that, by point of fact that it appeared there were drones flying at the dam, and yeah, so that explosion, that's above the dam. So I honestly think that that's a drone that was taken out by small arms fire as it approached. Yeah, so a lot of, as Tim White says, a lot of activity in Belgorod, particularly focused again on the reservoir and the dam there. 2 days ago, I reported Russia claiming 3 HIMARS had struck the dam, and clear evidence of another attack this morning. He says. Russia was loudly complaining about the recklessness of Ukraine and the danger of loss of life if the dam burst. Indeed, I remember Ukraine's army a year ago alleging that Russia had mined the Belgorod dam for a potential future false flag operation. However, there does look to be a definite tactical advantage to be gained by Ukraine now if the dam is breached. The Belgorod reservoir is built on the Sversky Donetsk River. If this is swollen to its original size, it will cause big problems for the invaders downstream. The water certainly looks to be flowing freely. As the videos show, the water levels in the reservoir have dropped. No fewer than 70 units of Russia's army are at risk, some serious, especially those that already crossed the river, could become cut off and lose equipment. So, yeah, there is that. But yeah, exactly where that is going to have an effect, I'm not 100% sure. Here we have OSINT Intuit saying flooding downstream of the Belgorod Reservoir Dam is visible on Sentinel-1 SAR imagery already. So this is actually having a major effect, and it does look to be flooding more widely. Right, okay, so we go back to, so I hadn't seen this. This is useful. Apparent intention of cutting off the Russian forces in Vovchansk. So what this does look to have done, if we go back to, Yeah, probably this one. So you've got Vovchansk here, and it really does seem to have actually flooded a much wider area here. So if the Russians are in this whole area, this forest area, as is the claim, they have this under their control, then actually the flooding, the excess water down here has actually flooded a much larger area, which means they've kind of been flushed out, or maybe stuck here in kind of flooded areas, unable to get to the north. And the only hope is to go to the south, but that's where the Ukrainians are. And that's a really useful, because look down here on the bottom right of the GIF. You've got some serious flooding, it appears, going on down here, and I think that's where we're kind of talking about, and that, I assume, yeah. Okay, interesting. Separate panels as well. Yeah, so there you go. The two separate panels. You can see the flooding on the right hand one, and video of the flooding here and the lack of water in the reservoir itself. So yeah, this could have some properly positive effects for the Ukrainians, and we'll just have to see over the next few days. Here it is, Osin into it with another thread saying last night Belgorod Reservoir was hit, and there's clear evidence of a structural breach there. So yeah, there was another video I was just looking for that shows firing over the, or around the reservoir, which indicates that drones were being used, but I can't quite find that at the moment. Yeah, local officials report that floodwater surged downstream towards Grafovka and Shebekinsky district, inundated dugouts where Russian troops were stationed along the river. Locals also confirmed widespread flooding. That could also be well within Russia, where there will be dugouts inside the Russian territory, defensively, in case the Ukrainians ever get north of the border. Belgorod's governor added that 10 land plots were flooded and 18 residents evacuated. Okay, so it's not too serious there, but yeah, one to keep an eye on. We'll see if Ukraine continue to try and attack the dam, or whether they've actually caused all the damage they need to cause to the dam. But yeah, as I say, let me know what you think. Take care. I'll speak to you soon.